the damn leads, the show by sales professionals for sales professionals. I'm your host, Drew B. Wilson. With more than 2 decades in sales, I've seen it, been through it, heard about it. Now I'm bringing it to you, my favorite people in the world, the sales community. Because let's be honest, this is the greatest job on earth. Doesn't matter where you come from, what background, what personality type, you can create a pretty amazing life in sales. Today's guest, no stranger to the journey, someone I'm super excited to have on. He's Mr. Dr. Joey Drolshagen. Welcome to the show.
Thanks, man. It's great to be here with you.
I am super pumped up. I was looking at your profile, and I know you're going to have some value, but I want to jump right in, man. Let me hear your crazy sales story.
Yeah, my crazy sales story is going within a year and a half of starting to understand what I do today with the SMT method and stuff, is going from barely scraping by, nervous all the time, afraid of losing my job, literally traveling 3,000 to 5,000 miles a week trying to build sales territories and hardly getting by even on the minimums, to landing $18 million contracts, $22 million contracts. And the largest one was a $25 million year-over-year contract that took an organization from $50 million to $75 million. And they happened with ease. They happened in a way that I no longer had to travel that 3,000 to 5,000 miles a week. And I actually learned how to put less effort in to achieve greater results.
That's the kind of stuff we love to see, right? That's the power of leverage. So first and foremost, man, having traveled all across the country myself, I was nowhere near 3,000 to 5,000 a week, you said. So let's just dive right in, man. When you were having to travel that much, what kind of stress did it put on you? Like, how did it really affect your ability to show up and sell?
Oh yeah. I mean, I had a young child at home, I actually, out of 5 pregnancies, I had 1 child. So when I say he's a miracle in my life, I mean that. I wasn't at home for his first birthday because I was out in Indiana building territories, trying to build territories and stuff. And man, to this day, I miss that. I had to miss that. It still hurts. I feel pain from that. And yeah, I would literally do loops from Michigan down one side, going down to Florida, and then come up the other side and cover it in either Sunday through Saturday or Monday through Friday. And then I would do loops because I had Indiana and everything east, Canada to Florida, and then over into Europe was my territory.
Brother, that is a lot of ground to cover. And I would have to imagine that, it brought up a lot of challenges. So what is the greatest challenge that, you face in helping the people that you help?
Is this here? This is one of the key things I got from that. Is my whole life I grew up understanding that you got to work harder. If you want something, you got to work harder. If it's not doing it, you got to work harder. And I didn't start out traveling like that, but as things were not working out, I did what I was programmed to do. I started working harder. I started putting in more effort. I started everything as far as results slowed down. The more I increased effort, the more the results of it slowed down.
So what is it that you do to help people get out of that stuck mentality? Because I know there's a lot of people out there right now that are grinding their face to the bone and they're not seeing the kind of growth that they want to see. So what's a couple things that you help them kind of figure out, or what's some things we could go and do right now today that will start changing that? Yeah,
one of the things I teach my clients to do, and I've developed the SMT method, subconscious mindset training. So it's all about the subconscious. And within the subconscious, there's a motherboard that hosts all of our programming. But the subconscious is what triggers the brain waves to the actions we take or don't take. So if our programming is if our programming is we got to work our ass off to get somewhere, excuse my language, then nothing else could be true for us. We won't do things. We won't take easy opportunities. And I've been the guinea pig of all these works. So what I do is I help people get into alignment, which means most of my clients, when I start working with them, I have to get them to throttle back a little bit. Because what's happening in that, we were doing 150 miles an hour. You don't realize the opportunities or the insights or overhear what you need to hear that will bring in the next sale and such. We're just going and going and going. The other thing I help every client do is we develop systems of accelerating habits that are unique to that individual. So I don't have, out of 700 and some clients over the past 12 years, not 2 of my clients have the same habits that they follow, because we tap into what it is you desire. We tap into those unique gifts and talents that within inside of us that really bring about our power. And then we tap into the programming, which is unique for every one of us, which leads to our perceptions, which leads to our results. So if we want to change our results, we need to shift our perceptions. The quickest, easiest, most permanent way of doing that is go in there and shift the programming. And so it's helping people to understand that. It's helping people. A lot of times it's pulling out of that logical mindset. We spend so much time in that logical mindset, and we build these plans and recovery plans and actions and to-do lists and all this stuff. But like, how many things have you achieved that have gone according to your actual plan? Right.
Yeah. 50-50 maybe. It's one of those things.
I would guess if we started breaking those down, it'd be a lot less that worked out like that, because it gives us some insight into it. But what I help my clients do is focus on what it is you want and build what the SMT method refers to as a dynamic vision. And then once we have this vision, this really powerful vision, we start putting that down. We start seeing through that. We start shifting our perceptions to that vision. And in doing so, it relieves us of trying to come up with every, ounce of the plan and everything else, and doing all that in recovery and A/B planning and all that stuff. And it helps us it really brings about very quickly less effort, leading to greater results in doing so.
I love that. And, I'm a big proponent of the idea that success is a perspective. My version is going to be different than your version. It's different than the listener's version right now. If you went back in time and you happened to be in the room when we were born that day, if you were to ask our parents, like, hey, when your son or daughter gets older, what are they going to be doing that makes them super successful? It's drastically different than what we're doing today right now.
It is.
And so I love that. And one of the things that I think is really important here for the listener to understand that time, energy, and effort are your most valuable assets. So, Doctor, how do you stay so energized and also help make sure that people stay reined in on the things that matter? Because you said, they're going 150 miles an hour and they miss things, but you got to have the high energy to be successful. So help me kind of break that down for them.
There's a different energy that goes into working, grinding away, than there is living through passion. It's a totally different energy. And I know this because I've experienced both sides of it. One of them is just that constant drag through burnout, up to burnout, even through it, things like that and everything. The other one is energizing in the fact when you're living passionately, when you're living through that vision and seeing that vision opening up in ways that you could not have brought about. And you're seeing that happen and landing 18, 22, $25 million year-over-year contracts. And a couple of years before then, there's no way that would have been possible for me, because I was so limited in my programming of what I thought was possible to me. So the vision, in developing the vision and shifting perceptions to that vision, what we do is we start bumping up against some of that patterning causing the limitation. And so we can go in. Now we've identified it. We can go and shift that and start opening the door. I'll tell you, last week I had one of my clients bring me down to up to, I'm from Detroit. I live in South Carolina. So bring me up to Ohio, just to celebrate his opening of his new warehouse that he was planning next year to go from double the size of his warehouse. And because his business has grown so much, from $300,000 to $3 million in 12 months, he started January. It just so happened that everything came together and he was breaking ground. He told me this. He goes, I can't believe I'm breaking ground. Like, I don't know how. Didn't expect this, but he built a warehouse quadruple the size of it. So he had a big open house and celebration and stuff, and he wanted me to be, and I was so glad to get to be up there for that and stuff, But that happens over and over and over and over with people and their results. But we got to, here's one of the things that causes us to struggle. We live so much of our life unconsciously. In other words, we're not even aware of what we're doing. We're not aware of the words we use, the thoughts we entertain. We're not aware of the actions we're taking because they just seem normal because it's what's coming from that programming. But what the limitations in that programming, as we do that over and over and over and over, there's an increase of effort required to feel like we're going to get somewhere. But that increase then degrades the amount of results we get from it.
It's crazy how much the fear of the unknown and fears that were installed into us as little kids and through all these different people in our lives that were influences, our parents or grandparents or aunts and uncles that had their own bias and their own, I say they were trying to do it out of love, but there's all these cliche sayings like, oh, money is the root of all evil, and all these little things that get planted into our mind that as we grow older, we
Yes.
have these subconscious fears, right? We have these things that are going on, and we're just like, why do I even feel this way? So, like, how do you manage the fear? How do you work with people to get them to stop being afraid of the things that they don't even realize
Well,
they're afraid of?
great question, Drew. The first thing is to identify that it's there. For me personally, during COVID, I thought I was afraid of heights. My whole life, I thought I was afraid of heights. During COVID,
Okay.
I took up hang gliding.
Tell me more.
What I realized in that is I'm not afraid of heights. I'm afraid of falling. Those are two different things. But here's one of the ways I explain this. So as we really, there's going to be fear in anything we're doing. One of the things I tell people is you got to be willing to be uncomfortable, because we're going to do things you haven't done before. Because if you're doing those things, you'd already be where you want to be, but you're not. So
Fair enough.
So often fear will seem like so big to us, and it's so far side to side we can't get around it, and it's so tall we can't get above it. But most times as we step through our fear, it's paper thin. That fear of hang gliding, the first time I went off a 2,000-foot cliff and you have 3 steps and you're in the air, man, everything inside of me was going, don't do it, don't do it, don't. And I took the first step, second step, and by the third step, it was screaming, like I could feel my heart beating in my throat. And the moment my feet left the ground, it was a sensation I've never felt before. And I was hooked. And that's what happens is we get there. The fear will get stronger as we get near the edge. But as soon as we go through that and let go, that's where real life begins. And that's what a lot of entrepreneurs chase. But the programming will have them stop short of it.
So what made you decide to go into this realm of coaching people and helping? Because, like, man, I'm a coaching consultant, and I know that I often tell people a lot of times what I'm doing is more therapy than actually coaching or consulting. So, like, what sent you down this path? What made you decide to go this route?
Yeah, I started this path at 22 years old. I had a mentor and a friend who owned a multi-million-dollar construction company up in Detroit, and he wanted me to take over the company, and I didn't have to go get a loan. We were just going to work it out over 5 or 7 years, and it was the most exciting moment of my life at that time in my of my life. And within 3 days, I ended up rejecting that and going, no, I can't do it. And what stopped me, Jerby, was I felt like I didn't work hard enough for it, so I didn't deserve it. And that goes back to my programming. And that's when I said, man, there is something wrong with me. And I started at 22 years old going through it. And I've been a continuous student of it. I got my doctorate degree in psychology so that I can, understand it better and understand the working of the mind and the neuroplasticity of the mind reprogram, rewiring itself and all that stuff. And I've studied it. But I didn't plan to go out and coach it. I was just trying to fix my life. And as I went further into this and further into it, and what took me years or decades to learn, my clients get in weeks now. So once I got into leadership and sales, and I start elevating a greater percentage of my personnel, my team, to top producers, is where I start. And it was before there was an SMT method. These are just the tools I was using along that, 20 years at the time or 28 years at the time to fix my life. And I started seeing it working with them. And I can't say that the SMT method was me sitting down with a pad of paper and pen and writing it out. It came through me. And I know there's something greater involved in that than just me. And so as I started doing that, then I started getting multiple certifications for the coaching that I do and stuff like that. I continued studying, which led to my doctorate and stuff. And eventually the last company I was with, they got themselves in bankruptcy, and I was part of the team to get them back out into profitability. And it was miserable, man. Every gray hair I have was because of that. It was such a hard thing to do, knowing there were almost 400 families there that depended on that job. And Friday, Saturday, and Sundays were not good days for me because there's nothing I could do, So in doing that, my dad passed away during that time frame. A year later, my mom passed away of just natural causes. She didn't want to be alive without him. And then that led me to going, man, here I am, an orphan, and I'm still doing this, and I don't want to. And I moved. I was in Iowa at the time. I moved down here to the mountains of South Carolina, and I literally started going out, giving out 5 business cards, just introducing myself, to trying to meet people and stuff. And that's where it started building from. And
I love that.
It was all on the, the energy you talked about, but it's based on that passion of, I know this works now. I've seen it happen. And I don't want people to live like my parents did. I don't want people to be stuck from opportunities because they're blocking themselves like I did. And my son, I don't want people to miss those precious moments of their life for money.
Yeah, I've had the blessing of working with a lot of people who have made more money than they know what to do with in their life, and oftentimes they revert back to, I just want to help people get out of their own way. Cuz
Yeah.
99% of the time the roadblock that you're facing, it's in your own mind. And we could go into the woo woo manifestation side, and I've done the NLP study and some of the unconscious mind,
Yeah.
subconscious mind stuff, so like I'm very in tune with that. And the biggest wall in the majority of the sales professionals, entrepreneurs, is their own doubts. It's their own inability to see themselves in the thing that they actually want, to feel it, smell it, taste it. And so like it's been so interesting to me to like see and be a part of that. And what I love about what you said is that, oh, I didn't just like go to school and then read a book and all of a sudden I'm an expert. It's like, no, I lived through this,
Yeah.
and now I was the example of what's possible. And I'm a big believer that when you set the example by actually doing the thing, it creates this buy-in from the others who are a part of what you want to do, and how you can help them.
Yeah, absolutely. And we know today, we know that 85% of our results are determined by that motherboard within the subconscious mind. We know that it comes from the subconscious. And so that means it's not good or bad. It's not 85% of what we want. It's 85% of what our results are. So if somebody's struggling, 85% of the reason you're struggling is because of what's programmed in that subconscious mind.
And man, this is so deep. I find, because we've been talking about the people that are grinding, and you had that personal experience of missing very important birthdays and things that are going on in your life. And I kind of run up against this every now and then, where people are like, well, you can't really have a healthy personal life and a successful professional life. It's just
Right.
not
I
possible.
know.
And it's to me, I had to create my own process, right? I call it the 4 6s strategy. It's all about time, intentionality, where you're spending your time, why you're spending it there, what the return on that investment is, because time, energy, and effort, the only resources we can't get back.
Yeah.
And so, do you believe that it's possible to build a successful life in your personal and professional and have it all?
I live that life. I've had clients come to me and they say, I want to build my business. A couple guy was doing a couple grand a month. He had a full time job. He didn't want to have the full time job, so he wanted to build it up. But he only wanted to build it to roughly $1 million, because his friends who were more successful than that in the size of their business and growing a bigger business, a higher revenue business, they told him how it killed them and broke their back, and how they had to trade out their life and everything else. So he was stuck. He didn't want to go above that. So that took some workings, like you said. Sometimes, and so as we go through that and stuff, as we build that up, and within the SMT method, we develop a dynamic vision. So that's where I start to use, because then that bumps up against those, that programming and stuff. So as we did that, the guy is now doing between $50,000 and $57,000 a week in revenue,
Come on,
and his
man.
life is easier than it's ever been.
This is the kind of stuff that I love, because it's so interesting to watch, and not only watch someone go through it, but like when you have that experience for yourself of, you blow past these walls, or these whatever it is that you've had in front of you, to see what you're truly capable of. And we all,
Yes.
like I read the book Peaks and Valleys by Spencer Johnson, right? Like you have to go up to the peak, and then you got to come down through the valley to see the next peak. But like,
Yep.
what would you say makes the ideal candidate, right? Let's say we have someone who's listening right now and they're not where they want to be. Like, what are the qualities in that person that you could talk to them and just know without a doubt that once they get this figured out, that they're going to be massively successful?
Oh yeah, so an ideal client for me.
Yeah,
Yeah.
well, yeah, exactly.
The first and foremost, and when I have an initial conversation with somebody, it's not just a hello and this and that, and I want to try to talk you into coaching. It's not at all.
Mm.
Are you somebody I can help? And what I found that the number one thing that answers that question for me is this somebody who's a yes, yes, yes person, or I know, I know, I know. Because there's so many people that are just I know, I know, I know, I know, I know, and what I'll tell them is, if without a beginner mindset, I can't help you. And the way I define a beginner mindset is we all know a lot of things, but if you're looking from the I know, I know, I know, you'll never grow, you'll never change in that mode because you know everything you need to know, and that's what's getting you your results. So what I tell them is people who can look at this and go, let me look and see what I can take from here and add to what I already know. That's somebody I can help. And then somebody that's struggling, they're just not where they want to be in their business. It doesn't matter why. A lot of people I talk to, I'll say, why do you think you're like that? And they go, oh, because of the economy and because of because of competition and because of like all these. And I know it's never about outside influences. It's about our perceptions of those things. And so that's programming.
I love it. And what I love is that, I've got, again, the blessing of having been in rooms and going to entrepreneurial events for the last 5-6 years. And you run into these individuals. They're at every event. They've read every book. They've done all the courses. And yet they're still in the same place they were 3 years ago, 5 years ago, whenever they started their personal development journey.
Yeah.
And it's because information is useless without action, right? You can learn everything in the world, but if you're not actually implementing it and participating in the actual doing of the thing, that's why so many people stay stuck. And, Doc, I'm sure you and I could probably sit here and nerd out on this for the next several hours because you're high energy like me and I'm loving this, but I want to be respectful of your time. Mm-hmm. What's the best way for me and the listener to come find you, follow you, check out more of your content? I know you've got some great stuff out there. How do we come check it out?
Yeah. Well, my website and stuff will be on there, but the easiest way to get a hold of me is I have a link set aside that attached to my personal calendar. It's coachwithjoey.com. And it's a 15-minute conversation. There's no sales pitch or anything. It's really just to talk about these things with whatever anybody's bringing in. If somebody's been struggling for a while and they don't know why, if they think they know why, it's just to serve is what it's for. And because I have my new book coming out, Reprogramming Your Subconscious Mind, the SMT method for rapid results, anybody that schedules that call with me, I'll give you a free copy of the book.
That is one heck of an offer, sir. I commend you because, again, you're someone who's, in all intents and purposes, very successful. But the fact that you're willing to share your time, one of your most valuable assets, with people, especially the listeners of the show, means a lot to me. I know it's going to mean a lot to anyone who decides to take action on that. And before we get out of here, though, I want to ask one more thing, right? Because a lot of times people come in and it's like, hey, what's a piece of sales advice? And yeah, we could do that. But let's just say that we get someone here today who's listening and they know they're stuck. They know that they don't want to make excuses. They don't want to play the victim. What's one thing that they can go and actionably do today to start getting out of that stuck mindset?
Yeah, so I instead of using the word work, I like fun. So I try to make things fun. So, some people are great with cold calling. They like doing that. Other people can't stand doing cold calling, that 10,000-pound phone, things like that and stuff, right? So what I tell people is you need leads in order to get closes. You got to get leads. You got to make introductions. You got to do that. So find a way to do that would be enjoyable for you. Some people it's going to conferences. Some people it's using the phone. Some people it's emails or like what I used to do is I would just travel. And as I was traveling, I would do calls and things like that and try and set up meetings. But whatever that is, find something you would enjoy to do, because what is critical into our results and rewiring the subconscious and everything else is that we're enjoying what we're doing. And so often we put that aside to grind through the things we think we have to do, which don't bring results. So if we're doing something we enjoy doing, it at least starts opening that avenue up. When I help every client develop systems of accelerating habits, I've talked about that already, and in doing so, that's what we look for. We look for ways that light the person up. Some people love doing social media, right? And you watch them on there and they're at home and you just watch the whole thing. Other people can't stand doing it. And I feel so awkward for those people. I'm watching them trying to do it that I just I just flip past it because I feel bad for the person, so it's finding something you like to do and just doing that, finding a little more time in the week to do that and see what happens.
I love that advice. That's one of the reasons this show exists, because there are amazing people like yourself out there who have a wealth of knowledge, who want to share the things that have worked for them in their life with the people who are willing to go and try it. And so that's why the podcast exists, because it gives me a chance to connect with other like-minded, success-driven sales professionals, entrepreneurs, business owners, doctors, right? Like, This is one thing for me that's incredibly fun. And I can say that it's led to a lot of opportunities and a lot of business. And so I 100% love that.
When I do that with the call and things like that, it's not selfless on my part. Because when I get on the phone with somebody and I can pick up something that they're unaware of, that they're living unconsciously through, and it's a pattern, and I can help them make a change to that, even on a 15-minute call, man, that freaking lights me up, dude. Like I'm just so excited the rest of the day when those things can happen. And that's one of the things is I get a level of fulfillment in doing what I do beyond anything I've ever done before. As far as
that is beautiful
career-wise.
And you know what, man? I can't thank you enough for taking the time out of your day to be here with us. It really means the world to me. I'm sure this is not the last conversation you and I will have. So just from the bottom of my heart, Dan, thank you for being here.
Same here. It was great being with you. Great conversation, Ruby.
Love it. Well, listen, if you guys enjoyed the show, do us a favor, share it on social media, tag us, let the world know that you spent some time, energy, and effort here today with us and you got something of value out of it. Maybe even send it to somebody who sucks at sales, who's like stuck in their own nonsense, and just if they could get out of their own way, they would be so much farther along on their journey. Send it their way. Share it with somebody. Subscribe, leave a review, whatever you think that would bring value. Do that for us, because it's going to mean that we were, the time that we invested here today meant something. And if just one person does that, then we know we're going to be changing the world exponentially. So go out there, share the show, tell everybody about it. And then if you have your own crazy sales story, right? You've got something that you've experienced in your life that you think could be valuable to others. I want to bring you on as a guest. Let's tell your story. Head over to callthedamnleads.com/podcast. Book yourself on the show. Let's share your story and let's do some amazing things. Outside of that, there's really only one thing left to do, which is call the damn leads. We'll see you guys on the next one. Take care, everybody.